Welcome to the tutorial of AReg CBCT. So since this is an extension of Slicer software, we need to open Slicer. We need to make sure, since the AReg process, the AReg module is within the Automated Dental Tools extension, we need to make sure that we have this extension. So to make sure of this, we need to install this extension, we need to go to the extension manager over here, and then install extensions, and then we look for automated, and here is the extension that you need to install. So you just need to install by clicking over here, and then a pop-up window will appear over here, and you just ask for you to restart Slicer. Once this is done, you are all set. You have this extension. Since I've already done this step, I just need to go here and look for Automated Dental Tools and AReg. So I'm gonna focus on the CBCT AReg part. So for this one, you have as input type two different choices. So the first one is either you have Nifty, Nerd, and GPL files, or if you click here, you have also the ability to use DICOM series as input, but we're gonna focus on the Nifty, Nerd, and GPL part. So there's three different modes. So we're gonna first focus on the orientation and registration, but there's also the fully automated registration and the semi-automated registration. But I'm gonna talk about those modes in another part of this video, of this tutorial. So the first mode stands for orientation and registration. So it combines as well as the automated standardized orientation algorithm that I've walked you through all the steps within another tutorial, and the automated registration algorithm that is based on automatically segment a region of reference, so either cranial base, mandible, and maxilla masks, and does the voxel based registration of those region of interest. So to do the registration, you need as well as a T1 scan folder as well as a T2 scan folder to register the T2 relatively to the T1 scans. So for the different test files that I'm gonna use, they are in the desktop, so in test files. So for the oriented and automated one, I just go there. So for the T1, I have just a scan, and for the T2 I have just a scan as well that aren't oriented, since this mode is orientation and registration. So the orientation will be done by this process. So you just need to select the T1 scan folder, so it is within desktop, test files, oriented, automated, and the T1 is here. The same for T2, you need to select the T2 folder. You need to select the segmentation model folder, so you just need to click here on download. It will automatically download, extract, and select a path, so you just need to download it. And for the orientation model folder, you just need to click here and then select which orientation type you want. So for me it's gonna be the occlusal and mid-sagittal plane, and it will automatically download the different folder and the different files that you need to do for achieving this process. And once this step is done, you can go to the option section. So the region of reference for registration section, you will indicate which registration you want to do. So either cranial base, mandible, maxilla, but you can also do multiple of them. So if I select mandible and cranial base, for example, I can do multiple. For my example, I will just do cranial base. And since this process, the AReg process, is meant to automatize the entirety of the workflow, at the end of this process, once the scan will be registered together, you can also run the segmentation, the automated segmentation of the different scan obtained, either T1 and T2 registered. So you can select the cranial base segmentation, for example. And then for the output section, you have the suffix. So you select how does the file will be named afterwards, and also the output folder. So you select a new folder and you create a new folder here, and then you call it the way you want, usually registered, and then you select this one, and then you just make sure that you have the correct number of patients over here, and you click on run. So once the process is done, it will appear a pop-up window that shows the time that has been taken to achieve this process. So you just need to click on OK. And then you go to your files to make sure that you have them. So if you go to oriented automated, so the folder that I've created. So at first you had the T1 and the T2 folder. So since you selected the orientation and registration, it has created T1 oriented folder used for the registration afterwards, and also a T2 centered folder that is also used for the registration. But the one in which you want to make the focus is the registered folder. So since you have only selected the cranial base, you have only one folder for the cranial base, but if you would have selected mandible and maxilla here and here, you would have cranial, as well as cranial base, as mandible, as maxilla folder. So if you go in cranial base, because you have only one patient, you go within this one, and so you have the registration matrix, the scan registered, and the segmentation of the cranial base here, and also the VTK files here with the cranial base segmentation. Okay, let's move on to the fully automated registration. Which only does the automatic mask segmentation and the voxel base registration. So now you only have the T1 scan, the T2 scan, and the segmentation model folder to enter. So once again, I have already downloaded test files, so the fully automated one for T1. So once again, you have only the scan oriented, and for the T2, not oriented as well. But the good thing is that you don't necessarily need the T2 to be oriented. So let's select them. So we go back, fully automated, T1, T2, segmentation folder, we just need to click on download. Once again, cranial base. We can as well as select one or multiple or none. It will skip the process. So to gain some time, I will skip this one for this. And once again, select an output folder, clicking here and creating a new registered folder. Select. And then make sure that you have one scan in here and run. So same here, you have a pop-up window that appears. If it doesn't appear, that means that you have an error. So hopefully it will appear. So we can now check the scan. So once again, you have the T2 centered folder that has been created just to center the T2 on the box over here, and the registered with the cranial base. And because we didn't ask for any segmentation in this part, you will just have the registration matrix and the scan registered. So let's move on to the final mode, which is the semi-automated registration. So you need to click here. So concerning the semi-automated registration, this only performs the voxel-based registration without any automatic initialization steps. So once again, you need to select the T1 scan and T2 scan folder and the segmentation model folder for any segmentation afterwards. So let's go to our folder to make sure that we have everything. So for the semi-automated one, as input, you need as well as the scan as the segmentation of the different reference region of reference. So here the cranial base, the mandible, and the maxilla, for example. And you just need those for the T1. So let's go back to Slicer. So we need to select the T1. So semi-automated, T1, T1, and T2, and the segmentation folder once again. So for the semi-automated registration, we have two more options. So the first one is this one, so include approximation step. So if you have already done any manual approximation step of the registration process that you want to do, you need to unselect this option, but if not, you need to include this approximation step that will be done automatically. Another option that is left for you is the label to select for registration over here. So if you have different labels within the mask files, the segmentation files that you use, then you can go here and the different labels will appear. So for me, since I have only label 1, then I have only this option, but if you have different label, then you can select one of those different label or select the entire file. So this is what I'm gonna take. And once again, you can select the different region of reference. So cranial base. And once again, create a new registered scan folder, select it, and then click on run. Make sure once again that you have the right number of patients over here, and run. So if you have the pop-up, then it means that you have the process that has been done correctly. So you need to click on OK, and then let's check the files. So in semi-automated, once again the T2 center and the registered in cranial base, and then once again you have the cranial base registration matrix and the scan over here. And that's pretty much all. Thank you.